A great prophet has arisen in our midst, and God has visited his people. The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Jesus and his disciples came to the other side of the sea, to the territory of the Gerasenes. When he got out of the boat, at once a man from the tombs who had an unclean spirit met him. The man had been dwelling among the tombs, and no one could restrain him any longer, even with a chain. In fact, he had frequently been bound with shackles and chains, but the chains had been pulled apart by him and the shackles smashed, and no one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and on the hillsides he was always crying out and bruising himself with stones. Catching sight of Jesus from a distance, he ran up and prostrated himself before him, crying out in a loud voice, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I adjure you by God, do not torment me." He had been saying to him, "Unclean spirit, come out of the man." He asked him, "What is your name?" He replied, "Legion is my name. There are many of us." And he pleaded earnestly with him not to drive them away from that territory. Now a large herd of swine was feeding there on the hillside, and they pleaded with him, Send us into the swine. Let us enter them." And he let them, and the unclean spirits came out and entered the swine. The herd of about 2,000 rushed down a steep bank into the sea, where they were drowned. The swineherds ran away and reported the incident in the town and throughout the countryside, and people came out to see what had happened. As they approached Jesus, they caught sight of the man who had been possessed by Legion, sitting there clothed and in his right mind. And they were seized with fear. Those who witnessed the incident explained to them what had happened to the possessed man and to the swine. Then they began to beg him to leave their district. As he was getting into the boat, the man who had been possessed pleaded to remain with him. But Jesus would not permit him, but told him instead, "Go home to your family and announce to them all that the Lord in his pity has done for you." Then the man went off and began to proclaim in the Decapolis what Jesus had done for him. And all were amazed. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Good afternoon, everyone. If we have a gospel about the new evangelization, perhaps it's Mark chapter 5. Oh, a world that's possessed and killing themselves in chains, addiction, violence, false gods, idols, relativism, individualism, hedonism, atheism, anarchy. The world is in the midst of the possessed, and Jesus is not afraid to enter this world with authority. Look at the courage and the strength of Jesus entering in the shores of the Decapolis The first time the disciples enter a pagan world, and entering there, this man possessed began to scream at him, to kill him. And Jesus, without fear, begins to expose this devil. And not only a devil, but a legion of demons. And so that the people can understand well what is going on, what's happening to the men. He allows the demons to enter the swine to understand what was happening in this man interiorly and what's going to happen with those 2,000 swine. It's a total possession of his interior, his life. And Jesus, with one word, delivers this man. And what happens when the people return? That they are seated at the right hand of Jesus, dressed with the clothing of whom? Probably of Jesus, the disciples. I have my shirt for the Lord. I have this for him. Give him to eat. That is, he returned his humanity. A man was seated with Jesus. And what does Jesus do with us? He delivers us from all evil and humanizes us, restores our humanity and more. And this man receiving this gift of the Lord wanted to enter the boat with them. But the Lord does not allow it, because the evil that had happened with the swine will be conquered by the good that this man will do in the Decapolis. When Jesus returns in chapter 8 to this same territory and the multiplication of the bread amongst the pagans, Jesus arrives and he says the entire people recognize Christ. And why? Because this man went out from this moment to preach and proclaim what Jesus had done out of mercy for him. This is what happens to every person when we encounter Christ. And Christ in the Eucharist, that he is expelling all evil spirits by his presence in the Eucharist. And he wants us also that to experience this same deliverance, and clothes us with grace through the intercession of his Blessed Mother. And receiving his mercy, our humanity, we also can share what has happened by Christ. Heart to heart. Christ is alive. Christ is my Lord. He doesn't have to stay in the tombs. No, you can walk freely like I have. And today we remember a great saint who entered the tombs of Turin, to save the lives of the youth. And we have the same situation today. How many young people in a violent and false culture, and they need hearts to enter in the path with them, to share Christ, to rediscover their humanity, that they may be clothed with the grace of Christ, with the hope of Christ, with the mercy of Christ, that they encounter the possibility of encountering their own conversion with others. Today's a day of great hope. And Jesus not only brought us the disciples and the Decapolis, he's forming us. How we will enter a pagan world with love, with courage, and faithful to the word of Christ, and trusting that his word is stronger than death. And the Eucharist with us and in us, it's a strength for the evangelization. And we, clothed with grace, with Marian consecration, to enter in all the Decapolis today, to proclaim and announce the mercy of Christ. Perhaps we can ask the intercession of St. John Bosco, who had this mission in the path in the church, the bark in the middle of the storm, but with two pillars, the Eucharist and Our Lady. And this bark of the church can pass with freedom. Instead of the storms, we have the tombs all over. And the boat can go by them with the Eucharist and Our Lady with us. We conclude with these words of our Mother Founders. Jesus is the light of the world, a light that the darkness cannot extinguish. Jesus is the only one who can satiate the man with the thirst that the human soul possesses. Eucharistic Jesus is our peace, our healing, and our deliverance. Our sure guide and the Word made flesh that continues dwelling among us to teach us to live according to the kingdom of heaven. With Mary, woman of the Eucharist, her whole life, we want to grow in love for the Eucharist. With her, we must adore Him, repair for Him, console Him, contemplate Him, listen to Him, and dispose ourselves to be a family that goes forth, taking Christ all over, so that Christ may come to the Decapolis of our world, all for the heart of Jesus, through the heart of Mary.